So you clicked on this link because you want to know when this housing bubble may pop. Well, stay tuned. Laurie and I are going to give you our professional opinion on what the real estate in Colorado Springs looks like in the next 3, 6, and 12 months out. So stay tuned to the very end. You don't want to miss our opinion and why we think Colorado Springs is still your best investment.
It's Laurie and Kalene with your Colorado's Finest here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we are pushing out a ton of new content this year. So if it's your first time to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button or that bell as we go over a ton of new information all about our Colorado Springs area, even in our famous bubble suits. So we are having people reach out to us all the time. If you are moving to our area, give us a call, 719-639-3393, because as we always say, we love Colorado Springs and making these videos, but we like making Colorado your home even more. Hey everyone, it's Laurie and Kalene, and we are bringing you today all about the housing bubble, and we keep sticking to each other.
Laurie bought us these really, she goes, you won't believe
I'm like,
what
don't look
I
in the
got
back.
us for our videos today. I was like, what? And she pulled out this
They're about the housing bubble.
outfit.
So we're going to see if the housing bubble is going to pop. So you guys always
It's a question that everybody
Everyone
always
asks us.
asks us, and we aren't psychics, but we do have a professional opinion on maybe what the market may do in the next 3, 6, and 12 months out.
Right. So there's a few
Colorado Springs specific.
There's a few different factors that go into our opinion and what that looks like, and just our experience helping clients in our market. We're out there seeing houses every day. We have listings every day. So we know and can kind of feel, I guess. I know that's kind of a strange term, but we can like kind of see how many showings we have, how many offers we have, and what that looks like going forward. And like Kalene said, we're not psychics. I know that it looks like we are really fancy in these suits, but,
I mean, we're
not.
Cool, but.
But a couple factors that go into it is, one is the housing market is, we always talk about it's one of the safest investments is the housing market and using your money to invest in real estate. So that's always a known fact for, since the beginning of time. Like I bought a house back in 2000 and it was stagnant for a while, but now it has doubled. So, it's always a good investment. Is it going to always increase the way it is increasing? Probably not. It can't for forever, but our first point, I'll get back on track. Our first point is, Colorado Springs and Colorado specifically ranks high in all those national polls as far as best places to live, best place to retire, most fit cities. And so naturally that brings in more migration to our cities.
Yeah, Colorado in general is just a sought after area, obviously. With the growth we are seeing, taxes are going up a little bit more. Colorado Springs is always going to be desirable because of the lifestyle that it brings. There's different areas, and if you're considering Colorado in general, my question to you would be what kind of lifestyle? So I lived obviously on the western slope in a little ski town, which definitely has its perks. But the reason why my husband and my family and I moved here was because Colorado Springs, you get, still the outdoor and the lifestyle that we wanted to continue to have. But we also have a lot of the advantages of living near a city and in a city as far as the job market goes, jobs with benefits. Like in our small town, it was hard to make a living. My husband had a construction company and people wanted to play all day. He would be like, guys, I have concrete, like thousands of dollars of concrete coming in on a truck, and you took the day off to go fishing? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So Colorado Springs, in my opinion, is just a little bit more, what do I want to say, like a normal lifestyle. People are contributing, people are working. You have larger companies that have 401ks and retirement benefits, health insurance. Like, I worked at the schools when we lived in Gunnison because my husband was self-employed and we needed health insurance. So
because people just came out of their house and they're really looking at what we're doing right now. So I'm just going to keep going with it. But I'm also going to reel Kalene back in a little bit. So the first thing is that, you know, we have our rankings are pretty high. We also are pretty insulated with our military as far as, you know, rentals go, and our military is coming in and out. And so that is going to insulate us more. And it's not like the housing market of 2008 where banks were lending money to people who did not qualify. That's not our current situation. Lumber prices have decreased just in the last week by 40%, which is crazy.
What?
Yeah.
Where did you hear that? I
just
didn't
am all about reading different things. But yeah, so hopefully that helps out some of our new build clients as far as that goes.
Yeah, and as far as like Laurie said, we can somewhat feel it, and I guess that is kind of a funny thing to say, but what we mean by that, you know, in our listings, instead of seeing maybe 30 showings back to back crunched into 2 days, we're seeing maybe 10. We're still getting fantastic offers. They're still above asking, appraisal gaps, but maybe you're competing with one other instead of 20 others. And so in my opinion, I think part of it has to do with more inventory on, you know, it's summertime here in Colorado Springs, families are moving. We have our military movement happening. A lot of our military are getting orders right now.
COVID's easing up a little bit.
COVID's easing up. And I feel like people are still moving though.
Yeah. So if it's good for you guys as buyers, like it's not, you're still gonna have to have a strong offer. Don't get me wrong. You're still probably use an appraisal gap, but we just got an offer accepted without an appraisal gap this weekend. And so that was, you know, I haven't had that in over a year. So that is, you know, another indication. Another thing we talk about is they might call the police on us, be like, why are these special people wearing these bubbles?
I mean, whatever.
But anyways, the other point I have is, you know, the foreclosures will start coming into play once they are allowed here, you know, to start foreclosing on homes that weren't allowed during COVID. And that's going to provide more inventory, which will naturally ease the market as well.
Yeah, so I think what Laurie's talking about is there are still laws in place that are preventing banks to foreclose on property. So as soon as some of those laws are lifted, I do expect to even have more inventory. But in that same token, I do think people are still going to be, you know, if they're getting kicked out of homes, they're still going to be looking for rentals. So it may be a great option if you're in the place where you're looking at investment opportunities to maybe start thinking about purchasing some rental homes here in Colorado Springs. It's a great place to have rental properties because of all of our military. So this is a little statistic I always throw out there, but national average for people moving is every 7 years. Well, here in Colorado Springs, it's 4. We have so much military. We're insulated with, you know, all these different bases. We have Fort Carson, Schriever, Peterson, the Air Force Academy, I forgot about it. But we're somewhat insulated and we have constant movement. So if you're thinking of investing in real estate, I do think Colorado Springs is as good as it gets.
Yeah. The other question is interest rates. Our interest rates are still at historic lows. You know, who knows where they're going to go from here. If they skyrocket, then absolutely the market will change. But for right now, they're remaining pretty constant and pretty steady, which is holding our market pretty steady. And, you know, like we said, I don't think our housing market is going to continue to grow at like a 10 to 15% rate each year, which is just unsustainable. But it will always continue. Well, I shouldn't say always. I do predict it's always going to continue to grow at like the 4 or 5% as we continue to go through this next market period. But I can't imagine it's going to continue to grow at that same rate. So it's still a really good investment, but the rate may slow down.
And that was our last point. I was just looking at our notes. Is we are still going to. We predict that there is still going to be growth, but maybe just not as the immense amount that we've seen in this last, especially year in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs has a ton of growth. We have a ton of infrastructure coming in, a lot of revitalization areas in Colorado Springs. A lot of people, we looked up the, James and I were doing our business plan for our storage, and the population of Colorado Springs over the last several years has grown over 100,000 in people. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
There's a lot of people that have moved to Colorado Springs, found our little slice of our secret here in Colorado, with our little small city.
Little small town, suburb city. So anyways, that is our little prediction on the market. Great investment. And will these bubbles pop soon? Who knows? But that is what we have to say about our housing. We'll just back up so you can see how wonderful these
Look
are.
how cute
how
they
wonderful they are.
We're like Oompa Loompas.
I think I should like. All right.
Warning first.
If you guys are moving here, if you have any questions all about our housing market, reach out to us 719-639-3393, and we'd love to help answer all of your questions on moving to Colorado Springs and the Colorado Springs area.